'cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Good afternoon. It's Thursday, 3 o'clock, and it's time to be adrenalized. That's right, folks. It's time to get that blood flowing and get re-energized. Why? Because you're here, you're alive, and it's time to be motivated to live your best life. Hey, everyone, this is Tom Marino, and I am the host of the Tom Marino Show. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. You can reach me at tommarino.com. That's tommarino.com. I want to hear from you. I want you to go to my website, fill out a contact form, go to the webpage for the radio show and leave a comment, leave a question, because I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're struggling with, what I can help you with. So welcome to today's show. We are live, and I want to first start by inviting you all to give a call in. If you have a question, concern, something that you've been working on, something you've been struggling with, give us a call, 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. So last week, I just want to recap last week's show very quickly for you. We were talking about fear, and we've been talking about fear a lot and how it gets involved in your life and how it gets in the way of your life, and you moving forward paralyzes you. And towards the end of last week's show, we had Dee from Hopog call in, and she was talking about a tough family situation where her family wasn't accepting her partner. And it actually turned out there was just two people that were the root. And over the last week, I've been thinking about that conversation. And, you know, she started out by saying her family, you know, was getting in the way, and she was putting up these strong boundaries that if they couldn't accept him, she didn't want to, you know, be part of that any longer and be part of those interactions any longer. And it raised the question for me of, you know, when we're afraid, we get overwhelmed, right? And it feels so much heavier than what it actually is, doesn't it? It feels so much heavier. And my takeaway from the conversation was this, that some of us have big families, some of us have small families. And I want you to put this in perspective. If you're going through a family issue where someone is giving you a hard time and you're struggling with something, you know, in a big family, two people, don't let it ruin it for you. Okay? Remember, there's a lot of other people around you that want to be part of your life. But when you're in a small family, those two people can take over and monopolize the situation. But what I want you to focus on is not how well you fit into other people's lives. I want you to focus on how you fit into your own life. Focus on fitting into your own life. Because if we focus on fitting into other people's lives, if we focus on doing and pleasing and avoiding situations just to make other people happy, we're actually doing more harm than we are good for ourselves. So just think about that. Don't worry about the size of the family, the people that are involved. Focus on what fits into your life instead of you trying to fit into everybody else's life. And that's my challenge of the day. I want you to think about what are some things that you're trying to fit yourself into. Stop fitting into other people's lives, people's expectations. Design your own. Fit into your own life. So if you're just tuning in, welcome to the Tom Marino Show. This is Tom Marino, and I want you to give us a call, 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. Today, I have a very, very special guest in the studio with me here. Her name is Melissa Menz. She is an accountant and owner and president of Marino, Menz and Company. Her company is located in Jericho, and you can reach her at marinomenzaccountants.com. That's marinomenzaccountants.com. Yep, and you heard it, folks. There's a Marino in that Marino Menz and Accountant. Nope, it's not Tom Marino's accounting firm. It was Tom Marino's accounting firm. So before I introduce my cousin, Melissa, and she is my cousin, her dad was my uncle, and he started this business back in the 90s. And Melissa is now, since he passed away, been running the business. And I'm so happy for her to be in the studio. So, Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Thomas.
All right. So, Melissa, it's tax season. Tell us, what are some of the big things you're working on right now and the types of clients that you serve?
We serve Anybody, really. We try to help everybody and anybody, mostly small businesses.
Okay.
All the small mom and pop shops. We try to help them, start the business, anywhere from incorporating to let them know how to run the business on a daily basis, monthly basis, whatever it is. And then, of course, there's always tax planning into that. It's, business-wise and also personal, that it all goes one into another. So there's a lot. There's always a big picture with everything, and it's just starting to really get busy.
Yeah, so this is the time of year, right? Even though you do your quarterly taxes, this is still the busiest time of the year, right?
Yeah, crunch time.
It's crunch time. Now when do you sleep? Do you sleep after April 15th? When do you sleep?
This year after April 18th, yeah.
Okay. Oh, this year it's April 18th?
Yes.
Oh, all right. I didn't even know that. You see, look at that, folks. We have an extra 3 days this year for tax season.
Well, right now. They might change it again. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, listen, maybe we'll get lucky. But you're talking about the different types of people that you serve and small businesses being our focus. That's both of our focuses in so many ways, right? I mean, as a coach, as a business coach, executive coach, I help a lot of entrepreneurs with managing their infrastructure, and you do a lot of that same work for people. You're like that. I know you do payroll for some companies, and you do their taxes in addition. So what are some of the infrastructure things that you do that you take off of the small business owner so they don't have to worry about it?
A lot of the bookkeeping and weekly payroll stuff for everybody. And everybody has a different story. So you can't really have a one-size-fits-all picture for everybody. I never have that kind of a platform. We never had that kind of a platform. And the same thing goes with pricing. I never like to give anything over the phone just to say, oh, this is how much we charge for taxes. That's it. Everybody has a different story, so you can't really, everybody's got a different amount of work or whatever the situation is. It's always, there's no real one-stop kind of figuring it out.
Right. I mean, it really is a case-by-case basis, right? With most things in life are very situational and case-by-case. So I was reading through the bio that you sent me because even though we're cousins, professionally we're not cousins.
Right.
But I wanted to really see what you were putting out there. And the thing that, really stuck with me was, you treat everybody like family. And I think that's a great motto to have. So where did that come from?
Actually, that I started, like you said earlier, my dad started the company back in 1993. I was only in junior high. So that was like a huge, huge thing. And, I've seen him go through a lot of stuff. And then 11 years later, I ended up working with him after I worked at a couple of firms myself after graduating college and everything. And then after working with him for a couple of years, I could just see, I knew it anyway because he was a very family person. He's very personable. And he was with so many people and everybody was so loyal to him. And I asked him, I said, what makes you so successful? Like, what could you say, one thing that you could just tell me? And he just said, treat everybody like family. Yeah. So that's what it just keeps going on.
Yeah. And that, it's not surprising that comes from your dad and my uncle.
Obviously.
He was a great guy at building relationships with people. He made people laugh and he did a lot of great things, and that's how you build these businesses. And that's always been my advice to small business owners. It's all about relationships. A friend of mine posted, what is the key thing that you've learned in running your business? And it's about relationships and treating people like family and treating people with the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And that's what it's all about. And for you to continue that legacy is it's awesome. So
I was just talking to somebody too recently at a networking event, and we were just talking about how nobody likes to hear the big words.
Yeah.
Everybody just likes to know that you're a real person and you could talk to them and you're just going to explain it in a very basic way.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly how we are. I don't like to try and get anybody confused.
That's it. Keep it simple. Don't use too many big words, especially me. I don't want to know too many big words in the accounting world. All right. So if you're just tuning in, this is the Tom Marino Show. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but I want you to give us a call if you have any questions. If you have questions for me, you have questions for Melissa, feel free to call in 631-451-1039. We will return after the break. We are live, 631-451-1039. We'll talk to you soon.
If you feel like that's what you want to do, here come bad news, talking this and that. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you.
And welcome back to the Tom Marino Show. This is Tom Marino, your host, life and executive coach. Hope everybody's having a great day. I hope that you can enjoy this sunshine that's out there before this weekend storm. We're going to have some snow, I heard, this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are talking today to Melissa Menz, who is the president and owner of Marino, Menz and Company. She is an accountant and works specifically with small business owners and does a bunch of other things as well. And before the break, we were just talking about some of the services and how important treating people like family is and building relationships with people. And, one of the things that we talk about is how important to really expand your business is really about the people that you fill that up with and the who's in your world, right? And, Melissa, you just mentioned that in one of the pre-interview questions that you recently heard a podcast by Jay Shetty, I think it was. And what was that about, that podcast?
He was really just talking about, he's very inspirational. And he was just really helping entrepreneurs, just saying how to get around certain obstacles and everything. So, and just changing your mindset with a lot of stuff. He was talking about like the 7 weaknesses that somebody could encounter, like throughout owning a business and everything. And one thing that he did say, which completely stuck with me, he said, one of your greatest strengths is awareness of your weaknesses. So I thought that was really deep, and it really just hit me because I'm like, that's the hugest thing, because I think that identifying a weakness can be difficult. I mean, for me, it's not. I know that there are a million things that I can improve on and do, but I think that it really is. It's very important for a business owner to focus on that and know exactly what you really need to improve to be more successful.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's like you have to, you're only as good as your weakest link, right? And you have to know what that weak link is. And one of the things that I've talked about, especially in executive positions that I've held, is really about, making sure you're playing to people's strengths, but you can't play to people's strengths unless you know what the weaknesses are. Right? Because you have to play to the strengths of things, and you have to surround yourself with people that have the strengths that you don't have, right? And I remember a couple of months ago, you and I had a conversation because there was a growing pain that you were going through in the business, and we had this conversation. I think it has to be over 6 months ago that we had that conversation.
Yeah, it was like summertime.
Do you remember what we were talking about in that conversation?
Yeah, I was just telling you, like, I feel like I'm just so stuck sometimes, and like I just don't know, overwhelmed with work. Like, thank goodness, got business grew, and there's a ton of stuff going on. But just not really knowing how to handle it and focus it and direct myself, I guess, in a way. And of course, the last couple of years with COVID, there have been 9 million changes in like 5 minutes. So I didn't know exactly which way to go and how to like really figure things out. And you actually helped me because you said, there's a delegation process that you pretty much have to get people to help you. And then that's when you recommended the book.
Yeah. So the book that Melissa is referring to is this book by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy called Who Not How. It's Who Not How. And it's a great book. First of all, Dan Sullivan is a strategic coach. He's very well known, very renowned guy. He's written a couple of books with Ben Hardy recently. The other book that's out there now called The Gap and the Gain, excellent book and he writes it for small business owners. He writes it for the entrepreneur because he understands the battles and the struggles that entrepreneurs experience. And, growing and scaling your business is often a big pain point for a lot of small businesses, especially solopreneurs, people who don't have more than 5 or 10 people that they work with on a regular basis. And, we're talking about the real small business owner like you and me, we're typically 1-man, 2-man shops, right? It's not a big business. And you have to figure out we always ask the question, how am I going to get this done? Right? And how am I gonna work to get this all accomplished? So, and we're going to answer that question in a second. So if you're just joining us, this is a Tom Marino show, and I'm Tom Marino, and we're talking with Melissa Menz from Marino, Menz and Company, and we're just talking about how small businesses often struggle, and they struggle because one person, 2 people are trying to do all of it. And in this book by Dan Sullivan called Who Not How, he really addresses the importance of identifying who's, right? the who's in your life. And by asking yourself, who can help me with this, as opposed to saying, how am I going to do this, you can change everything, right? What was one of the key takeaways that you picked up in the book?
There was a ton. One of the biggest things, though, I think that really stuck out was that he mentions a lot of famous people in here, like Michael Jordan and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like you always think like famous people just have it made and they just know exactly what to do, when in fact they really don't.
Right.
So he pointed out a lot of different things that way. But one of the big things was commit to specific results. So you really got to stay focused and like really know exactly what you want, which I think is very difficult too sometimes, because of course you want your business to grow, but I think you have to know, where do you want it to grow?
Absolutely.
Like some people, like in my industry, like I just want to help small businesses. Like I'm fine with getting, individual clients and stuff like that, but I don't want big companies. I want to help the smaller people get off the ground and help them succeed and be better at what they're doing. I always say that to people too. I'm like, you just worry about doing what you do.
And that is such an important part of what he talks about in the book. And I remember I read the book back in last January was when I came across this book, and I was struggling at that point with, there's so much that comes with running a small business these days that are very different than businesses years ago, right? Mm-hmm. You have to have social media, you have to have a website, you have to have some kind of blog that you're writing expert articles about. You have to be posting on a regular basis. There's always something to do, and we're not experts in all of those things. And I was really struggling with that. All I wanted to do was coach people, right? And that's what he talks about, being committed to the specific result. Yeah. Like, decide what it is you want to do. You want to help small businesses. You want to help them get set up, get them moving, get them on their way from a business standpoint, from a financial standpoint, to help them manage their business. Because if you don't have money, you don't have a business, right? Work. It's not going to work. If you can't generate revenue from what you're doing, it's not going to work. But that's what it's about committing to the specific result. It's really, what's that 80-20 rule? I always talk about the 80-20 rule. In sales, you always want to get 80% of your revenue from 20% of your clients, right? That's the Pareto method, and that's what I related to committing to the specific result. Because the goal is to have the least amount of people, have the least amount of things bringing you the most results, because then you can pace yourself. Then you can maintain and not get overwhelmed and burnt out and all of that. So if you're just tuning in, this is Tom Marino and the Tom Marino Show. Give us a call, 631-451-1039, 631-451-1039. Tell us what you're struggling with in your small business right now. Melissa and I are here to talk to you. We want to hear from you. We want to know what's on the docket for you this year. Have you set that goal to commit to this year, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people think they have to commit to these big strategic plans. And, what's the main goal for the year, right? Like, my main goal is getting a podcast launched. It's merchandising. It's doing all of these things to kind of expand the business. What's your big goal for the year right now?
My big goal, I think, just compared to the last couple of tax seasons, is just get through it.
Right now,
with all the chaos and everything, it's really just focusing on just getting everything done.
And no matter how many times you do it, right? You said you've been there for 19 years. You've been doing this, right? Like, when you think about it, 19 years, is anything ever different sometimes in those tax seasons? Everything, right? Because always. You have to adjust to new regulations. Yeah. And that is overwhelming to people, right? It's all these extra burdens that we wind up carrying. Yep. But, all right, we are going to take a commercial break. We want to hear from you. So give us a call, 631-451-1039. And if, you want to find out more about Melissa and her company and how she can help you, especially if you're a small business, visit MarinoMenzAccountants.com. That's MarinoMenzAccountants.com. And if you want to reach out and get in touch with me, visit me at TomMarino.com. Go to the radio page and leave a comment, leave a question. I want to hear from you. We will be back after this break.
Give me all you got and don't hold it back. Yeah. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. 'Cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without.
Hey, welcome back to the Tom Marino Show. This is Tom Marino, your host, executive and life coach, Tom Marino. Welcome back to the show. For those that are joining for the first time, this is the Tom Marino Show, and we've been talking this afternoon to Melissa Menz, who is the president and owner of Marino, Menz and Company. You can reach her at her website at marinomenzaccountants.com. That's marinomenzaccountants.com. And before the break, we've been talking about this book by Dan Sullivan called Who Not How, and the impact that it's had on our businesses, as well as the impact that it should have on many small business owners. And the basic premise of the book is, identifying the who's in your life, the people who can do some of the work that you need to do so that you can focus on what you need to focus on. And Melissa brought up before the break that committing to the result, part of committing to the result is about you focusing on what you're supposed to be focusing on, right?
Yeah, staying focused. Know what you want.
And, for me, it led me to hiring a few people as freelancers to help me with my social media, my website development, my SEO stuff, all this stuff that we have to learn to run a business in the 21st century that you don't really think that you would ever have to do, but you have to do it. I mean, how does it really impacted you, Melissa, in prioritizing things or carrying out your day-to-day? What's been the big takeaway that you've implemented from the book?
Well, just with that, like with the who's, I didn't realize how many different things. I feel like I was just so set in my father's ways. We kind of left everything the way it was. And I realized so many different things like that. I really needed to update my, my computer security, like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I found a who, and I got them on top of it, and they're helping me out with it, and they're excellent. And actually that who brought me onto another who, because, there's this thing called the employee retention credit, which is for small businesses who, during COVID, if you kept your employees on payroll and everything, you can get all different types of payroll credits. And they've changed the rules so many times. They changed all the regulations and stuff like that periodically. And I can't get myself to dive into it because it's so much. So when I was talking to him, my computer guy, he was telling me, he said, that there is a firm that actually does this. So if you delegate it to them, they can handle it for you.
Absolutely.
So that's leading me to another who.
Wow, you just keep finding who's. And we are who's, right? In our as service providers, you provide accounting services, I provide coaching services. We're somebody else's who.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too, because even though I am a who, financially and everything, people always ask me, do you know a good attorney? Do you know a good financial advisor? Do you know, anybody? And I'm thankful that I actually am a wealth of who's, because we have so many different clients. Mm-hmm. Everybody, even people that work for other places, like they're psychologists and podiatrists and construction workers and union workers and, anybody, website designers. I mean, all different things. And I'm a wealth of who's to everybody else.
Right.
Same thing.
And that's what this is about. And that's what he talks about in the book is also being a good who for somebody mm-hmm. else and the importance of doing that. A lot of people that run their own businesses and are solopreneurs, they have a hard time letting go of things, right? And
I think one big thing too, a lot of people say is that because they're such a small business, they don't know if they could afford it. Obviously, you do have to scale it all out. But you also have to think of it as an investment, because it's going to end up being so much better and more profitable for you in the long run.
Absolutely. And they go into that in the book. If you're just tuning in, this is Tom Marino and the Tom Marino Show, and we're talking with Melissa Menz from Marino, Menz and Company. We've been talking about this book, Who Not How. We want to hear from you. If you have any questions for us, please give us a call, 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. And identifying the who's, it is an investment. And in the book, Dan talks about going into, abundance when you identify the right who's. Mm-hmm. Right. And when you find the who's, you will build an abundant lifestyle because you'll be more focused on what you need to be focused on. And you have to see it as a self-investment, not get in that mindset of the cost mindset. And he talks a little bit about that and how oftentimes we look at things as small business owners. Oh, what's it going to cost me? What's it going to cost me? What's it going to cost me? And you know what it winds up costing? It costs you your success at times.
Right.
Because it's the same thing with coaching. I don't sell coaching. I don't tell people that they have to buy coaching. What I tell them is if you want things to change and you're struggling to do it on your own, you got to invest in yourself. It's an investment in you, right? Like, why wouldn't you invest in yourself to be successful? But when people have that cost mindset, like, what's it going to cost? You know, you're just like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do it then. But it's also, you know, as a small business owner, it's hard to sometimes hire people, right? What do you think is one of the big things that a lot of us have difficulty letting go of at times is letting go to let somebody else do it? But what do you think is the foundation of that?
You know what? I don't know. I feel like I just have a lot of self-control issues.
Okay.
Myself, like I am like a control freak with certain things. And, you know, I think in my situation, I feel like I just have such a reputation to uphold. Yep. With Dad and everything, with everything that he built and stuff like that. And obviously, like, I don't ever want to let any of that down. Right. So I always try to go above and beyond, which I always did anyway, but I feel like it hits harder now.
Right. And what you're really talking about is letting go and trusting somebody else to do what
trust is a huge thing. Yeah. That's why a lot of our clients too are multi-generational. A lot of them started like back in the 80s when Dad was doing this on the side. And, you know, we've actually had companies now where the children bought the companies from their parents and grandparents. So we've seen it go through so many different changes, and even just, you know, we're handling, like I'm saying, multi-generational clients.
Wow.
So.
And that is it. Those transitions can be make or break in some cases, I'm sure. Oh yeah. And those are situations where, you know what, even though it's a family run business, sometimes you need an outside to help you to navigate that transition. Because if you don't have someone saying, well, how are you going to handle that, or what would you do here, or what needs to change, right? Because from one generation to the next, that's one of the things that becomes very difficult in family run operations.
The thought process is totally off.
Yeah, it's like, well, I wanted.
Sometimes they're like, I don't want to do it the way my dad did it. Okay, fine, don't do it that way.
Right, but a lot of people struggle with that because, you know, they feel that they have to continue to do business the way, because that's what made it successful. But that doesn't mean that's always going to be the successful way of doing things.
And you have to change with the times, like you were saying before. Yeah. Like now it's totally different. You have to keep up with social media and everything, and you just have to get your name out there more than what you were able to last time. Right.
And there's a demand for you have to be on cue all the time, ready with a response. You have to have those answers. And sometimes it really takes a lot of work in that kind of a transition to get the ground reaffirmed, right? And firmed up again. You know, I have a client that I was talking to last night. She just started her own social media business, and she's actually going to be doing my social media. But she is this incredible person who left the corporate world, decided that this wasn't for her anymore, and now she's starting her own business. And she just hired 2 people. And I said, what's your biggest struggle right now? And she was like, it's letting go. It's trusting them. I said, you need to read this book called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan, because you will learn that if you fill yourself with more who's, if you have more who's around you that can help you in different ways, you're going to reap the harvest of that. You're going to reap the benefits of that.
There's one thing in the book that I saw. It was like middle of the book. But it says, by seeing yourself as an investment rather than a cost, you can expand your freedom of time, money, relationship, and purpose. And it's so true.
It's absolutely true.
It really is. You're an investment yourself.
Exactly. Because again, when you become a business owner, you start something that you love to do, and you wind up not doing that a lot of the times. And it's creating the boundaries and the expectations around that to be able to continue to do what you want to do. So, you know, hire a who, people. All right, we will be back after this commercial break, but we want to hear from you. If you have a question, you want to ask me a question, you want to ask Melissa a question, the lines are open, 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. Give us a call. We want to hear from you. And if you are too shy to get on the radio, go visit tommarino.com, and leave a comment or a question on the radio page. All right, we'll be back after this break.
Well, give me all you got and don't hold it back.
welcome back to the Tom Marino Show. I'm Tom Marino, your host, life and executive coach. And we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 631-451-1039. We have a few minutes left in the show. Today we've been talking with Melissa Menz from Marino Menz Accountants.com. You can reach her at marinomenzAccountants.com. And we've been talking about this great book, Who Not How. And right before the break, we were talking about how important it is to trust the who's in your life, right? To trust the people that are going to help you with your business and help you as an entrepreneur and small business owner to meet your goals. And, one of the things that we often struggle with, in addition to trust and building those relationships with our who's, is that sometimes we have to recognize that people are not as committed to our businesses as we are. And that's okay. They're allowed to not be as committed to our businesses. We have to let them bring the skills and the gifts and the strengths that they have to help us with our business, but they don't have to give the same level of commitment. And that's something a lot of people struggle with. One of the things, and that brings up like a whole value mindset, right? Oftentimes I'll talk in coaching about what are your values? What do you value? Because if you don't clearly state what your values are, you can't have people understand what your expectations are if you don't have the values. And in the book, on one of the pages, we even quoted the page 118 together in between the break. Never enter a relationship with having first created value in that relationship, right? And that's one of the things you mentioned earlier in the show, Melissa, that your dad used to do all the time. He created value for people. He worked with people, built that relationship. And, it's that mindset of what else it says on the page of, always ask what's in it for them rather what's in it for me.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing with, that's what we just want to help.
Exactly.
We just want to help everybody. It doesn't matter. I've actually had some people say to me, oh, I don't think I'm big enough for you. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't need anybody bigger. I want the smaller people.
Right.
It's fine.
You want those small businesses, those 1 or 2 man operations. Those are the ones that you can make such an impact, right? Because part of it is how can you help them? Because as from what you're saying and what I do as a coach, right? I want to see people succeed. I want to see people have the life that they want.
Yeah. I think it's important too that everybody knows that you're a real person.
Right.
Because I'm a wife, I'm a mother of 3 kids, 1 preteen and 2 teenagers. My son's going off to college next year. And now this is just the craziest time because all 3 of our kids play hockey. So 5 days out of the week, we're always at a hockey rink. So sometimes clients are calling me now and I'm like, wait, I'll talk to you after the game.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have who's that can help you with that, that's great, right? Because that gives you the time freedom that you need. And that's one of the things that Dan talks about in the book with Ben is if you have the plenty of who's in your life, and you've built good relationships with them, you can take the liberties of your time freedom because that's going to bring you an abundance because you're going to be focused on what you need to accomplish. But one of the things that, it's what he also says, know what the other person cares about, right? That's a big point is in entertaining a new client, what do you always ask them? It's what can I
do ask them, what do you want out of this?
Right.
What are you looking for?
What do you care about?
Do you want another, like a vacation home? What are you looking to do?
Right. What's the goal at the end of the day? What's the outcome? What is the result that we're committing to in this relationship, right? I have a client that's a real estate investor, and she talks all the time about transactional relationships and how sometimes we can have such a relationship with people that we're just a transaction. You go to a store, you buy food. The relationship with the cashier is to have a transaction to exchange money. But in a lot of our businesses where we serve people and we serve clients, it's about the emotional transaction that takes place, right? Knowing what that person cares about, right? Imagine if that grocer standing behind by the cashier, instead of just asking, for your money to pay for an item, they say, how are you doing today? What's going on for you? I always love when I go to the store and I have a talkative cashier because that's someone who really is focused on emotional connection with people, emotional transactions, not just this dead kind of transaction. And we have to remember that's part of caring about what people want and caring about the person is to bring that emotional relationship to everything. People don't recognize that our relationships, they exist, right? When you take on a new client, that's entering into a new relationship. And when you enter into any intimate relationship or any relationship with someone else, what do you want to know?
Yeah.
What they care about, right? So if you're just tuning in, this is the Tom Marino Show, and we're talking with Melissa Menz, who is the owner and president of Marino, Menz and Company. You can reach her at MarinoMenzAccountants.com. And we've been talking about Who Not How, this book by Dan Sullivan, and how it's been transformative in our businesses, and how it really speaks to the small business owner and the entrepreneur about really getting your priorities straight. And part of getting those priorities straight is investing in people who can help you and truly investing in creating abundance in your life.
Something else I just want to say is that even without, of course, the who's, and a lot of it is with your clients and stuff like that. But if I'm trying to develop new relationships, like with a new attorney, like a real estate attorney or an estate attorney or somebody, I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with them. So I want to build that trust relationship with them first. And then that's when I'll end up, referring a client to them or something. But personality could be a huge thing too.
Right.
Not every who is going to work.
Right. And that's a great point, Melissa. Not every who is going to work out for you. And you're going to go through several who's. And he talks about that.
Yeah, before you get the right one.
Before you find the right one. But that's part of making the investment, right? And focusing on it as more of an investment, right? Sometimes an investment goes bad. Sometimes you make an investment, you invest in a stock, it's doing great, and then all of a sudden a pandemic hits and everything plummets, right?
It doesn't even have to be a financial investment. It could just be a time investment.
Exactly.
So that's huge too.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the person I was talking about that's doing my social media, right now, in order to build her business, she's developing a relationship with 2 people she hired, but she's also training them. She's investing a ton of her time. And that's so important. That, that serves as the foundation of everything we do, is how much we're willing to invest and train people. And a lot of people, she's struggling right now. She wants to grow. And I said, you're not in a season of growth. You're in a season of foundation building, because you just started this business. And if you jump right to growing your business,
one step at a time.
You got to walk before you can run. And
sometimes those businesses fail.
Exactly, because no one's there to say to them, slow down. And I said that to her last night. I was like, listen, pull it back. This is not a time for growth. It's a time for building a foundation. It's a time for getting your legs into the sand and really getting grounded and making sure that you can move forward and scale your business eventually. If someone had told you 19, 20 years ago, develop a system of who's, get a conglomerate of who's together that were going to help you, would have been like, what?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
what is that about? What is this conglomeration of who's? Well, Melissa, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Tell everybody how they can reach you, give out your number. Tell them how we get in touch with you. If they're a small business, they're looking for a new accountant, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Thomas. So we're located right in Jericho, on Jericho Turnpike, very central to Long Island, but we handle everybody all over Long Island, and multi-state. And my phone number is 516-747-5464. And as Thomas mentioned, you can reach us on our website at MarinoMenzAccountants.com.
Fantastic. Again, that's MarinoMenzAccountants.com. Again, I want to thank Melissa for being here with me today in the studio to keep me busy for the last hour. And I hope that you guys took something away from today's conversation. So if you're a small business owner, if you are an entrepreneur and you're struggling to get a business off the ground, if you're struggling to scale your business, check out this book by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy called Who Not How. And listen, I want to hear from you. Go to TomMarino.com. That's TomMarino.com. Visit the radio page. Leave a comment. Leave me a question. I want to hear from you. I want to know what's going on and how I can help you, because at the end of the day, I am here to serve you. So give us a call, 516-588-0750, 516-588-0750. Visit TomMarino.com. Until next week, choose your adrenalized life.
Don't hold it back.